Did you know a properly maintained 1950s Chriscraft can outperform many modern fiberglass boats on the water? In looks and performance. However, here's the infuriating truth. We're letting these magnificent vessels die in forgotten boathouses across America. Once they're gone, we'll never get them back. Not because we can't build boats anymore, but because we'll never build them with the same soul that said this boat will outlive your grandchildren. This is a love letter to old boats and why we cherish them. Let me tell you something about our community that might surprise you. We don't restore old boats because it makes financial sense. God knows it doesn't. We do it because we have to. There's something in us, something primal and necessary, that refuses to let these vessels slip away into memory. Take the Century Resorter, for instance. Built in the 1940s through 1960s, these boats were the Cadillacs of the water. The company, founded in 1926 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, quickly moved to Manistee, Michigan in 1928, where they remained for over 60 years. In the 1930s, Century's Hurricane model set the world outboard speedboat record at 50.93 miles per hour. During World War II, Century built over 3,600 vessels for the military and earned the Army-Navy E Award for production excellence. They were known for their use of Philippine mahogany in their construction. The Resorter models were produced in various lengths from 15 to 21 feet and were extremely popular for water sports. Century was innovative in their construction techniques, and by 1967 they had begun transitioning to fiberglass hulls, marking the end of an era for their traditional wooden boats. We restore these boats because they represent something America used to be great at: building things that lasted. The brass hardware on a 1940s Hacker-Craft wasn't just functional, it was cast with the assumption that someone, someday, would want to polish it back to brilliance. John L. Hacker, born in 1877, was the preeminent naval architect of mahogany pleasure crafts. He founded the Hacker Boat Company in 1908 in Detroit, Michigan, and his designs were so mathematically precise that modern naval architects still study them. In the 1930s, Hacker-Craft boats were known as the Steinway of runabouts. His revolutionary V-hull design changed boating forever. Notable designs included boats like Pardon Me, Thunderbird, and My Sweetie. He was responsible for over 20 water speed records and 5 Gold Cup winners. The Hacker-Craft Company's motto was "Nothing beats a hacker," and honestly, 70 years later, we're still trying to prove them wrong. But here's where it gets interesting, and a bit controversial. The modern boating industry doesn't want you to restore old boats. They'd rather you buy new, disposable fiberglass that'll be in a landfill in 20 years. They'll tell you that old boats are unsafe, unreliable money pits, and sure, if you don't know what you're doing, they can be all those things. If you're enjoying this glimpse into our obsession with these floating pieces of history, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell, because what's coming next might just change how you look at every boat you see. We're about to dive into the dangerous truth about why these boats actually want to be restored. Yes, you heard that right. They want it. Old boats speak to us. I know that sounds crazy, but ask anyone in our community who spent time in a dusty barn, running their hands along the hull of a forgotten Chriscraft, and they'll tell you the same thing. These boats want to live again. Chriscraft, the absolute titan of American boat building, was founded by Christopher Columbus Smith, who built his first boat in 1874 at age 13. The company that would become Chriscraft was officially formed as the Chris Smith & Sons Boat Company in 1922, later renamed Chriscraft in 1924. Christopher Columbus Smith started building boats at age 13, and by the time he was building the famous racing runabouts in the 1920s, he'd created an empire. Here's something fascinating. During Prohibition, Chriscraft boats gained popularity with rum runners. Gangster Al Capone himself had a fleet of nearly 24 Chriscrafts that were being used to smuggle liquor across the Great Lakes. The company never officially acknowledged this, but they sure didn't stop making their boats faster. While the company has changed hands multiple times, Chriscraft continues to build boats today, now based in Sarasota, Florida. The Chriscraft Riviera, produced from 1949 to 1954, is what we call a barn-find holy grail. These 18 to 20 foot runabouts featured the company's legendary construction methods with beautiful mahogany planking. The wood itself tells you when it wants to be restored. Good mahogany, even after decades of neglect, will still ring like a bell when you tap it. Rotten wood sounds dead, punky. But here's the secret. Even boats that look completely gone often have good bones. We've seen Rivieras pulled from lakes after 30 years of neglect, and with proper restoration, they're back on the water looking better than new. The restoration process itself is where the magic happens. You start by stripping everything down to the hull. Every screw, every plank, every piece of hardware gets catalogued. Original Chriscraft screws from the 1950s were actually made from silicon bronze, not brass like everyone thinks. They develop a distinctive patina that modern reproductions can't match. We've got guys in our community who can tell you the production year of a boat just by looking at the screw heads. Garwood boats. Now there's a controversial topic. Garfield Wood wasn't just building boats, he was building floating missiles. In 1916, Wood purchased Miss Detroit and the company that built it, Chris Smith and Sons Boat Company. Chris Smith built racing boats under Wood's direction until 1923, when Smith and his sons separated from Garwood to operate their own company, which became Chriscraft. From 1920 to 1933, Garwood's boats won every Harmsworth Trophy race and held every major speed record on water. The man was obsessed with speed, and his boats reflected that obsession. He was the first to go over 100 miles per hour on water in 1931, and his Miss America X, powered by 4 Packard engines producing 6,400 horsepower, reached 124.9 miles per hour in 1932, becoming the first boat to exceed 2 miles per minute. The baby Gar models from the 1920s and 30s became the playthings of millionaires. Owners included William Randolph Hearst, John Dodge, and P.K. Wrigley. These boats had hull designs that were literally decades ahead of their time. Let's talk about style for a moment, because this is where old boats absolutely demolish anything built today. You pull up to dock in a restored 1957 Century Coronado, and every single person stops what they're doing to look. Not because it's loud or ostentatious, but because it has presence. It has what we call dock appeal. The Century Coronado, particularly the 21-foot model produced in the 1950s and 60s, featured something called the sweep spear design. Those gorgeous chrome accent strips that ran along the sides weren't just decoration, they actually served to strengthen the hull at key stress points while creating this incredible visual flow from bow to stern. Century was known as the thoroughbred of boats, and their Coronado models were particularly popular. The dashboard instruments were made by Stuart Warner, the same company that made gauges for Duesenbergs and Packards. Think about that. Your boat had the same quality instruments as the finest automobiles of the era. The Hacker-Craft Dolphin, arguably the most beautiful runabout ever designed, had proportions that were masterfully calculated. John L. Hacker didn't just design boats, he sculpted them, using principles that created perfect balance between form and function. In 1911, Hacker designed and installed 2 floats on the Wright brothers biplane, making it the first aircraft with twin floats that could take off and land on water. The tumble home, that's the inward curve of the sides as they rise from the waterline on a Dolphin, was calculated to create the perfect balance between stability and speed. Hacker's revolutionary V-hull design, which he pioneered in the early 1900s, allowed boats to plane over water rather than plow through it. Modern engineers use computer modeling to try and achieve what Hacker did with a pencil and slide rule. But style isn't just about looks. The hardware on these boats was functional art. The cleats on a 1950s Chriscraft were sand-cast bronze, each one slightly unique because of the casting process. The steering wheels were made from actual mahogany or teak, turned on lathes by craftsmen who'd trained for years. The windshields weren't just glass, they were laminated safety glass with hand-ground edges, held in frames that were individually fitted to each boat. Still with us? Good, because if you think these boats are just pretty faces, wait until you hear why they're actually dangerous, and why that's exactly what makes them so incredible. Don't forget to like this video if you're falling in love with these old beauties like we have. Now here's where I risk losing some of you, but it needs to be said and don't hate me for it. Old boats are dangerous, and that's part of why we love them. They demand respect, they demand skill, they demand your complete attention. A Chriscraft Continental with its original 158 horsepower engine doesn't have power steering. When you're doing 40 miles per hour across choppy water, you better have strong arms and quick reflexes. There's no GPS, no depth finder, no automatic bilge pump unless you've added one. You navigate by landmarks, by reading the water, by knowing your lake or river like the back of your hand. The danger is real. These boats were built in an era before mandatory flotation foam. If you put a hole in the hull, you're going down. The engines, those glorious straight 6 and V8 monsters, run hot. Really hot. We're talking about engines that were designed for cars, marinized with raw water cooling systems that can fail spectacularly if you don't maintain them properly. I've seen engine compartments catch fire because someone didn't check their fuel lines. Original fuel lines from the 1950s were made from copper, and after 70 years, copper work hardens and cracks. But here's the thing. That danger makes you a better boater. It makes you respect the water. Modern boaters with all their safety features and computer controls have created a generation of boaters who think the water is a playground. As old boat folks, we know better. We check the weather 3 times before we leave the dock. We carry toolkits that would make a mechanic jealous. We know how to read a cloud formation and what it means for the next 2 hours on the water. The controversy in our community is whether to modernize these boats for safety. Some purists won't even add a modern bilge pump, insisting on manual pumps only. Others discreetly hide modern electronics behind original dashboards. The great debate is over engines. Do you rebuild the original, knowing it might leave you stranded, or do you drop in a modern motor and lose the soul of the boat? This is the heart of it all. These boats deserve to survive. They're not just boats, they're time machines, art pieces, engineering marvels, and family heirlooms all rolled into one. Every boat has stories. We've got a member in our community who restored his grandfather's 1947 Chriscraft U-22 Sportsman. During the restoration, he found love letters his grandparents had hidden behind the dashboard in 1951. Another found Prohibition-era bullet holes expertly patched in the hull of a 1928 Hacker-Craft. These aren't just vehicles, they're repositories of American history. The craftsmanship in these boats is literally irreplaceable. The old-growth mahogany used in their construction doesn't exist anymore. Those trees that were 200 years old when they were cut in the 1940s, they're gone. The Philippine mahogany that Century loved so much. It's now heavily restricted and difficult to obtain. We're working with wood that simply cannot be sourced new anymore in the same quality. When we restore these boats, we're preserving materials that are essentially extinct. The skills required to build these boats are dying too. There are maybe a few hundred people left in America who truly understand how to properly restore a planked wooden hull. The technique of steam bending frames, of caulking seams with cotton and paying them with bottom paint, of fairing a hull by eye, these are becoming lost arts. Our community is desperately trying to pass these skills on, but young people aren't exactly lining up to learn how to swing a caulking mallet. During World War II, Chriscraft alone built over 12,000 vessels for the US military, demonstrating the incredible production capacities these companies once had. But here's what really gets me, and this is going to sound sentimental, but I don't care. These boats have soul. You can feel it when you fire up a Flathead 6 that's been properly rebuilt. The rumble isn't just mechanical, it's alive. The way a wooden hull flexes and breathes in the water, the way it talks to you through the steering wheel, the way it smells of varnish and gas and lake water. You can't replicate that with modern materials. We've had engineers study these old boats with modern equipment, and they're consistently amazed. The hull shapes that were developed through trial and error turn out to be nearly optimal according to computational fluid dynamics. The weight distribution, the center of gravity, the planing surfaces, it's all there, figured out by men with nothing but experience and intuition. The Century Arabian, produced in limited numbers from 1966 to 1968, just 90 wooden hull versions before switching to fiberglass, had a hull design that wouldn't look out of place on a modern performance boat. the deep V configuration that Ray Hunt would later popularize. Century was experimenting with similar designs in their various models. These boats were so far ahead of their time that modern builders still reference them. So where does this leave us? Our community is at a crossroads. Every year more old boats rot away in barns and boathouses. Every year, the people who know how to restore them get a little older, a little fewer. But every year, we also see new faces at the shows. Young people who get it, who understand these boats represent something worth saving. The economics are brutal, let's not sugarcoat it. You can easily spend $50,000 restoring a boat that's worth $30,000 when you're done. But that's not the point. We don't restore these boats as investments. We restore them as acts of defiance against a disposable culture. We restore them because when you're cutting across a glassy lake at sunset in a 1955 Chriscraft Capri, with that straight six humming its mechanical symphony, you're experiencing something that money simply cannot buy new. We are the keepers of these vessels, the temporary custodians of something bigger than ourselves. Every boat we save is a victory against time, against forgetting. We sand and varnish and polish not just wood and brass, but memories and dreams, and the very best of American craftsmanship. This love letter to old boats is really a love letter to everyone who's ever turned a wrench on a frozen engine or spent winters bringing dead wood back to life. We are a community bound by the shared understanding that these boats matter, because they're beautiful, dangerous, and irreplaceable links to our past. If this glimpse into our wooden boat world sparked something in you, hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Somewhere out there's an old boat waiting for you to bring her back to life. Until next time, keep the brass polished and the bilge dry.